Okay, so we're on our Netris dashboard. Yours probably looks different from mine. That is okay. It's just because I'm part of the staff here. But there are several ways that we can access zipForm. Now, first one on this system is going to be on the second section, additional Netris products and partners. It does say here, account activation may be required. So anything down here, MetroText doesn't directly manage these accounts. It's not included with your MLS. They're just additional options. zipForm is going to be over here in the middle. Now, a lot of users have reported having trouble logging in through that avenue. So if you're able to log in through there, that is great. If not, let me show you some other options. I'm going to close out of this. Your other option, go to Matrix, very first dashboard tile on the top left, Netris Matrix, click on that. And then from here, we're going to look for our external links. I already have mine on here. It's that external links has that chain link icon there. And this is where you'll access your other applications here. We have a second option. Now, if this does not work, don't panic. I have a third option too. So zipForm login, if this does not auto log you in, you can email the MLS department. That same email address, mls@dfwre.com, and just let them know that you'd like to connect your zipForm to your external links. All right, you have to have an existing account, but as long as you have an account already, we can send an email to zipForm and they can connect that during our class. All right, so if you don't have that external link set up, let me show you the third option. This is a Texas Realtors benefit. So you can always access zipForm through Texas Realtors. That's going to be down here under associations and boards. I've got Texas Realtors here, or you can just go to texasrealestate.com. texasrealestate.com. And your zipForm button should be on the top right-hand side right there. You can log in through that option as well. All right. Now, if you have not created an account with zipForm, you will need to go ahead and do that if you want to follow along. If you prefer just to observe today, remember you'll get that video. So if you want to create that account later and come back and watch that video, you can do that instead. All right. So we're on the zipForm page now. Let's take a look first at just some of the main icons up here at the top, or the links at the top here. So depending on how you access it, it might change the branding up here. The very last one I went to was Texas Realtors. So that's why it's showing the red text with the Texas Realtors branding. All right, it's totally normal if it changes colors. It could change depending on your office and your type of account. First one here, your dashboard. Some of you might have automatically been brought to that dashboard as your main default landing page. This is just a high-level overview of all of your transactions, anything you have in progress, any dates, anything like that. We also have forms here. If you want to just go straight to filling out a form and getting it signed, this is an option you have available here. We will not be doing this option. We're going to go through the entire step-by-step process of creating a transaction, so we're not going to worry about this one right now. I'm just going to click that back button at the top. Next, transactions. Now, transactions is my default landing page. If you want to change your default to be transactions, I'll show you where to do that in just a moment. But your transactions are all going to be listed here. There are different statuses for your transactions. You can see all the different statuses here. Of course, this is only used for class, so all of my transactions will be active, but you can update your transactions as you go, and then you can easily organize things from here. You don't just have that, that gallery view. You can change between a list view and a gallery view. Let me expand this again. There we go. So we've got our gallery view here on the top right-hand side. You can switch to the list. All right, so you can switch back and forth depending on your preference. If you don't have any transactions yet, then you won't have anything other than the tabs, all right? But we will have at least 2 transactions today. Next up, you have templates. This we will come back to in our second hour. We will create a template, then we will use that template to pre-fill information onto a form. You also have a doc inbox. This doc inbox, if you need to upload any documents to zipForm, it gives you an email address to use where you can just email them directly to your zipForm account. So that's another great option there. We also have tasks and contacts, as well as some other items here if you want to integrate this with any other accounts you have on other platforms, but that is between you and zipForm. We won't have involvement in that at the MLS for MetroText. All right, so we made our way all the way to the end. Hover over that silhouette icon. If you have a photo there, just that last icon there, hover over it. Don't click on it just yet. But I want you to see what type of account it is that you have. You can see here it's got my name, my office, and at the bottom it says this is an individual agent. zipForm has two types of accounts. You either have an individual account or you have a brokerage account. All right. If you have a brokerage account, that means that your broker has paid zipForm for some additional features. Maybe you have custom templates. Maybe you have some additional form libraries to use. Whatever the case may be, that account is managed by your brokerage. All right. So some of the settings we're about to look at, you might not have access to because it is a brokerage account. For individual accounts, you should have exactly what I have access to on here. And we're going to look at how to customize some of our information next. A frequent question that we get is my office hasn't been updated. All right, this is actually a manually updated feature in zipForm. So I'll show you where to update that as well if we need to. Click on the silhouette icon now instead of hovering over it. We're going to click on it. You should get this little pop-up on the bottom or bottom right of that icon there. We're just going to click on the profile and settings. From here, we're going to go through just a couple of the highlights on the first section. The landing page is going to be about me. If you want to upload a photo, you have a little avatar here if you want to add your headshot or your logo. You can update your contact information here. And at the bottom, if you want to create an email signature, click on that email signature tab. You've got some basic font customizations here. If you need to add a link, if you need to add an image, you have those tools in zipForm. All right, so go ahead and add some basic contact information on here just for the purpose of this class, and then you know where to come back later if you want to enhance it a little bit from there. All of this is the About Me section. All right, your Save button is at the top, that green button at the top. So if you do update your contact details, save your changes before you go to the next page. All right, I'm going to move on to the sign in and security, but no rush if you're still setting up your email signature. Sign in and security, we're not making any changes on here. This is just for you to see where you can update your username or your password if you need to reset it. Just as a reminder, MetroText does not manage this account. So if you lose track of your login information, you will need to reset your password or work through that with that after hours number for zipForm. If you want to set up two-factor authentication, that is optional in zipForm, but you can set that up down here either with a mobile number or an email address. Again, save changes if you made any changes. The next tab, offices. This is where the difference is going to come in. If you have a brokerage account, you probably don't have the offices tab, or you might have the offices tab, but you can't update anything in here. If you have an individual account, this is where you can update your office information. So if you changed offices, you can go ahead and update the name, the address, city, state, zip code, and phone number. Even if there's a fax number, you can add that in. All right. Keep in mind, if you update your office information, it's only going to be updated in any new transactions you create. It is not retroactive. So you'll need to go double check any existing transactions. If your office needs to get updated on any forms that you're using, make sure to go make those changes as well. Next, let's click on Forms. This is just for you to see what form libraries you have available. All right, you'll see the library acronyms here, the name of the library, and the expiration date here. These are going to just be for you to sort. You cannot remove any of them or add anything. If you want to sort the order that those are listed in, you can click on Organize on the top right. And it's really just going to choose what is your default library that you'd like to access. Whatever you have at the top, this is the default that zipForm is going to open anytime you go to your form libraries. But I will show you how you can switch to the others and how you can search through all of them at the same time. But if you want to rearrange these, you can drag and drop over here on the left. It's just a click and drag motion, just like our widgets. Move it up, move it down. Once you release it, that's where it will stay. And again, save your changes. All right. Here you have some other form options if you want to change your active field text background or highlight colors. I have been playing around with this. I have not seen it display on the forms. So let me know if you want to change the settings in there and let me know if it works on your end. We'll explore as we go through this class. I just updated these yesterday to test them out. So we'll all find out together. Let's go to our products. Products is not going to have anything that we can change, but if you've connected anything with zipForm in the past, you'll be able to see when that was and what that system is. Even if it's a system that no longer exists, like digital ink, we no longer have digital ink in zipForm, but it does show that it was linked previously before they removed that product. Next, let's go to settings. Now, settings is where we can manage our e-signing options. You have access to two options here. If you have a DocuSign account, DocuSign does require that you create your own account. It's not something that's included with your MLS or a Texas Realtors benefit. This is between you and DocuSign. If you have an existing account, you can link it. However, MLS support staff here at MetroTex, we're not trained on DocuSign. We're trained on the system that's included, which is Authentisign. So if you'd like to follow along today, everything we're doing is going to be in the new Authentisign system. Select Authentisign, update your time zone if it happens to be incorrect. And you can save your changes here. But there's some other settings that I want us to take a look at here. So that's just our e-sign options. Next is your account preferences. So like I mentioned, if you had logged into zipForm and your default page was the dashboard and you want to change it to your transactions, or the other way around, if you want your default to be the dashboard instead of your transactions, that is the very first option here, set the default landing page. Here I have my transaction list. If you want to switch to dashboard, just select dashboard. I'm going to switch back to transaction list. Next, you have the default view for your transaction list. If you want it to be your transactions or any that have been shared with you, keep that on my transactions. And then you can also manage your autosave frequency, any notifications. Very last thing I want to make sure everyone has checked are these template preferences. Make sure both of these boxes are checked. Import the data to transactions when a template is applied, and apply the broker and agent information. Make sure both of those are checked. It should automatically be checked, but just in case. Let's go up and save those changes. Okay, default time zone does not appear. If you switch between DocuSign and back to Authentisign, does it appear the time zone? You might have to switch between the two, because I don't think it was displaying on mine until I clicked on DocuSign. If not, okay, perfect, it did. All right, great. Save those changes. Let's move on to the last two here. This one, we won't change anything, but if you want to come back to it, all your notification settings are here for your tasks and your checklists, your doc inbox, your transactions, your documents, any sharing, even broker approval. So any notifications will be managed here. And this is an additional benefit if you want to purchase that from zipForm to add a transaction coordinator through zipForm. All right, now I'm going back to the transactions page. Just click on transactions or click the back button to go back to the previous screen here. So from here, we're going to go ahead and start a transaction. All right. If we want to start a transaction, it's always going to be using the blue plus sign that says new on the transactions page. Top left-hand side turns green when you hover over it. Click on new. You'll get this pop-up here. All right, so this pop-up is telling me to select the type of transaction that I'm doing. You have a couple options here. First one, new listing. This means that we are the listing agent for a property that will be listing for sale. That's new listing, very first option. Second option, new purchase or offer. This means we are representing the buyer making an offer on a residential sale listing. Or well, it doesn't necessarily have to be residential, but it is a sale listing. Next, you have new lease. Again, this is representing the tenant on a lease, just like the new purchase or offer, but for a lease instead. And then new lease listing means we're the listing agent and we are listing that for lease. All right. Last one, quick e-sign. This is just a quick option if you just need to grab a form and get it signed. You can skip all of the other steps from creating a full transaction. For today's class, we will be focusing on making an offer. If there's some extra time, we might look at maybe potentially what the lease application options are. But we'll look at the new purchase and offer option to start with, so go ahead and click on that. For creating a transaction, there are only 2 required fields for this category. You need to give it a name, and you need to select the category if it's residential, condo, commercial, land, anything like that. So first, let's give it a name. I'm going to name this after my client. Last name is Torres. We're going to say this is Torres initial offer. I'm going to go ahead and put today's date on here for 17. That way, if anyone has any questions after class, if I'm not teaching class, I am also answering your phone calls and your emails on that support line. So if you have any questions after class, just reference the class from the 17th. I will have this saved in my zipForm account. All right, next let's add the property address. Now you don't have to have the MLS number every time. If you just want to add the property address in here to get started on the transaction, you can do that. Today's property address, let's say we're going to 777 Lucky Avenue. That's going to be in the city of Irving. All right, Irving, Texas. And remember, this is not a required field. So if I don't have a unit or apartment number or zip code, I'm not required to fill all of this in just yet. I can come back later to add the information. Next is my category. This is required. We will go ahead and select residential on this. But look at the other options you have. You're not limited to residential. It's just the majority of what we handle in MLS. You also have a status. If you are going straight into pending or anything like that, you can switch statuses here. I'm just going to leave this on active. And then at the bottom, you may or may not have anything here. Select templates. If you don't have any templates, you won't have this option. If you have a brokerage account, you might have some templates in here that your broker already set up for you, all right? We won't use a template on this transaction. We'll do it on the next one. Last thing here is a comment section. If you need to add any comments, any details, reminders that you need for that transaction, you can add those in there if you'd like. Last step is to click Save, so that green check mark at the bottom. And now that's going to create the transaction. So here we are in a different screen, your transaction view. Over here on the top left, this dark gray bar, this is going to be the main navigation for your transaction. On the top left, you have the name of the transaction that we gave it. You will have an individual, a unique transaction ID for every transaction you create. And here you can see the retention period of that transaction. zipForm will keep the transaction information for 7 years. But if you do need those documents beyond 7 years, make sure to export those documents and save them to your device. That's the initial information. Then we have the different sections of our transaction. Starting with the summary page, this is what it automatically lands on here. The summary page, you can add more detail about the property. If you need to change the status, those status options are up at the top. You can add more detail about the property. Here you can add your MLS number, lot number, the county, subdivision, anything else on here. You have your purchase summary as well. And then you have your buying and listing site information. All of that is on there. All right. If zipForm detects any text in here that would transmit to any of the fields on the forms that they have, it'll automatically put that on there for you, so you don't have to manually type it in every time. You will see what it will not transmit is the purchase summary information. The purchase price has to be entered manually on that 1 to 4, but we'll be looking at that later. That's our summary page. Next, let's look at our parties. So we need to add our contacts to the transaction, anyone that's going to be potentially signing any documents or anyone that's involved in the transaction. It's automatically going to add me since I created the transaction for that specific category. It has me as the selling agent or buyer's agent. If you need to add any new contacts, you have the option on the left here. You have all the different categories. You see I'm already selling agent and broker, but all these other details here, if you have anyone else involved, you can add up to 4 buyers, up to 4 sellers. We're just going to do 1 and 1 today. But if I want to add someone, I just need to click on that field over there on the left. Just click on buyer 1. You'll get this pop up. All I need to do is add a first name, a last name, and most importantly, an email address. This is where if you are following along and you want to see the e-signing process on your own screen, add your personal email address in here so you can follow along with that. None of what we are doing today is going to be a real transaction. So I will also show you where you can delete information as well by the end of class. Let me add my client's information. This is going to be Callie Torres. And that email address, make sure don't use the email address that I am entering on here. I'm going to demonstrate using this email address that I've already created. But if you send your e-signing to me, I cannot complete your e-signing. All right, if you want to add more detail, you've got phone numbers on here. You've got address information if you need to add their current address. At the bottom, if you have anyone that is going to have a signing representative, or if they're signing on behalf of a trust or a business or anything like that, you have these other options down at the bottom. But let's save those changes. We're only doing a first name, a last name, and an email address. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and add my seller. Let's go to seller 1. That's over here on the left. Click on seller 1. My seller today is going to be Sally Seller. Very simple there. I'm not going to add an email address, just a first name and last name. And let me save. Again, down at the bottom. So here we have our buyer and our seller. If I want to see, if I have too many parties on the transaction, I can separate them at the top. I can use these filters to look at only the buy side, only the sell side, and then any service providers that are involved as well. So it will let you filter your categories. Those are your parties. Next, let's look at our documents, because now that we have our parties added, we need to get our forms added to the transaction so we can pre-fill them and get them signed. So once you click on the Documents tab, there are 2 locations that you can access your forms in. Very first one, probably the easiest, is going to be all the way on the right, this bright blue button that says All Forms. Click on All Forms. It'll take you to this page here. It's just a little pop-up on the side. And look at this. Texas Realtors is my default form library. All right, so if you want to search a different library, maybe Texas Realtors doesn't have what you're looking for, click on this drop-down. And you can either switch to another folder or you can select all of them. I'm going to always do this option just in case. Select all. And now I can do my search for my forms. All right, so from here, I'm going to use this search and I'm just going to look for keywords. Again, MLS support staff, we cannot tell you what the form numbers are you should be using. We cannot tell you the name of the forms, even though we know the forms. You'll see that in just a moment. We know the names, but we cannot give you the advice on which ones to use for your transaction. So please bear in mind, I know there have been a lot of changes. We're going to use what's available, but always check with your broker or the legal hotline if you need advice on what forms to use and how to use them for your transactions. All right, we're focusing on the tools within them. So first one we're going to look for is our IABS. All right, so let's try the acronym IABS, see if anything comes up. All right, and you'll see when you type in those letters, it'll tell you which folder that come up in. That's the Texas Real Estate Commission folder. And I have 2 options for an IABS in zipForm. There is on the buyer tenant side, and there's one on the seller landlord side. And then if I type the actual word information about, let's see if that is enough. Information about, let me add broker to that. There we go. That includes both the TREC and now the Texas Realtors folder. All right, so just a little trick there. If you're not finding it with the acronym, try it spelling it out and vice versa. But then we also have the Texas Realtors IABS forms here as well. All right, now if you hover, you will see when this was last updated. This was February 2025. So I'm going to go ahead and just add, let's see, this first one that came up here for buyer tenant. If I want to add to my transaction, I just need to do a single click on the name of the form. So click. You'll see this yellow banner here confirming it was added. And you'll also see this little grayed out preview there. That is the form we just added. That's not all I need though. So I'm just going to delete the text from the search and look for my next form. I want to look for my 1 to 4. So I'm going to type in the words 1 to 4. And again, 1 to 4 gets us the TREC form. What if I just use the number 1-4? 1-4. That brings me Texas Realtors. All right, so try different forms, try different versions or formats of that so that you can find which one you're looking for if you're using the search all. And I'm just went ahead and clicked on that one. Last one, let's go ahead and add third-party financing. Let's try THIRD. Third party came up for both folders. All right, so I'm just going to go with this Texas Realtors. There's no reason why. People ask, I have no preference. I don't have any real transactions. So it's up to you. Again, check with your broker or your legal hotline if you have questions about which forms to use and why. So now that we've got those, I exited out of the forms library. Let me show you the other option here. So that is one way to get to your forms. If I want to access other options, I have an option down here on the lighter gray panel here where I can click Add Doc. Add Doc is going to give me more options than just the form library. It is going to give me the Add Form option. That'll be the form library that we just looked at. But there's also a browse option if you want to upload something. Maybe you already got that IABS signed and you just want to upload it to the transaction that's already signed. You can do that. You also have your other options, your OneDrive, your Google Drive, any other platform that you have documents already signed on. You can add those here also. I'm just going to hit cancel because we don't need to add anything else. Now that I've added my forms, I need to fill out my information. All right, they're blank forms. The nice thing about these forms is they're smart forms. They're going to recognize the information, the parties in the transaction, details about the property, and anything that it has a field for text to be added, it'll automatically add that to the form for you to save you some time. All right, and that's kind of one of the goals of our class here, is to show you the ways that this platform can help you to be more efficient with completing your transactions. What I'm going to do now is click on the IABS, just clicking on that icon there. And this is taking me straight into the forms editor. So from here, I have my preview of my form. I can scroll down if I want to add text. And you'll see here, it already added me on my line there. It did not add my license number, so I can go ahead and add that in. And I can add my other office information. For the sake of time, I'm just going to add the first line here, because when we do our second transaction, I'll show you how you can create a template where this is already filled in. So we're not going to spend too much time filling it in the first time around. I'm just going to do that first line, and we're just going to do some pretend numbers here. I will put the real MLS phone number and inbox, email inbox here if you need to ever contact the MLS support team. There's our phone number and email. All right, but I'm not going to add the rest of the information again. We'll come back later on the templates to add the information so it's there automatically. That is a good question. So I see in here, I already have template forms. Did they automatically get updated with the most current form? That is very important. Templates will not update the forms if the forms change. So if we have updated forms, and I have not been notified if we have the most recent updates in zipForm in the form libraries, but check your Texas Realtors emails, check your Netris emails. They will follow up to confirm when forms have been updated. But if a form is changed, or if there is a new form, your existing templates will not update. You also, if it's removed, you won't have access to those old forms either. So make sure to replace those if there are any changes. That's a good question. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, let's move on from here. So let's say we filled all this information in, but we need to add our other forms. There were other things we needed to work on. We don't have to leave this page and go click on the other forms. I can actually bring them into this page. So on the right, you can see forms and documents over here on the right-hand side, and we've got our workspace. Our workspace is the form that we're working on. So you can see the IABS is the only one in the workspace. But down below, I can see grab from transaction. This is going to show me the other forms and documents that are in my transaction, but that I'm not actively working on. If I want to add those in, I can click on the plus to add those. So click on the plus, add both of them in there. And now under my workspace, all three of my forms are here. And I can just scroll down on this main preview of the form. I can scroll down to start working on the next one. Let me see the questions coming up. Are you going to show us how to delete the old templates? That's not part of our content, but if you'll remind me in our second hour, I'm happy to show you how we can go back and make changes. Is there any reason I can't see the questions or answers in the chat? That is only for me. I can only see the questions. The answers are not written in the chat. I'm just answering verbally. But we'll get the questions. I will get a copy of the questions after class if anything is missed. All right, so we are working on the next form. We're on that 1 to 4. You can see already our seller and our buyer have already been added, so I don't need to add that in. Every single field that is assigned to the seller and buyer already has their information on there. So you'll see that as we continue. Information about the property. I added limited details about the address, but you can see what I've added in is already on here. Now, just because it automatically added information doesn't mean that you can't change it. So very important to know this is where you can make changes. Yes, the system is going to import information, but if anything, if you notice, oh, I did a typo, their name's not Sally, I can click on this and I can update it. Just a single click on that line and you'll get this pop up. All right, let's say it's not Sally, it's actually Sebastian. All right, so we can change that. If we need to add a second person, we can add the second person. And then all I need to do is click out of that box, just in any other area, and then I'll go back to my other page. All right, same thing here. If I have one buyer on here, I can add a second one. The nice thing about these forms, if I change the name of my seller and I go back to my parties, it will already be updated in there. So it does go back as well. Let's keep going. Let's scroll down to the sales price. Again, this one, you will have to enter that in manually. Let's take a look at that here. I'm just going to enter some simple numbers on here so that it's nothing too complicated. We are going to say line A, that is going to be 1 million. Notice how I didn't add any commas or anything. I just added the zeros. All right, it's 1 and 6 zeros. It's just easier to remember that way. Now, it's not always going to be a simple price like that, right? It's not going to be just straight up 1 million. It'll probably have somewhere in the hundreds of thousands and very detail on there. So the nice thing again about these forms is it's going to do the math for you. On line A and line B, it will add the total of both. So you don't have to bust out your calculators for that one. We're just going to add 2 million on line B. Again, no commas, no punctuation, just the numbers. It'll auto format and it will do the math for us. Next, let me go ahead and check this box for our third-party financing addendum. Just a single click and it will select that box there. All right, so we've seen how to add text, how to add numbers. The numbers are a little bit tricky though. If you ever have a $0 amount, give me 1 second, I'm going to take a sip of water. All right, sorry about that. So if you ever have a $0 amount, zipForm's a little bit tricky on how to enter a $0 amount. And I'm just on page 2, section 5, just so we can use that text box or that number box there. If you have to add a 0, let me go ahead and add one now. If I add a 0 and I click out of this text box, it's going to delete it. It won't let me do it. Also, if I try to type the word zero, Z-E-R-O, it is unresponsive. All right, maybe if we do 0.00, nope. So here's the trick. If you ever need to add a 0, click on that number field and then just hit the space bar on your keyboard one time, just one space. When you hit that space bar, this will turn green. Then you can add your 0 and it won't be deleted. All right. You can also do the word 0 and it won't delete it. All right. All you need is that space. And see there, address already on there. No need to add it in again. Let's keep going. Let's go down to page 5. We're on page 4, one more. Here we go, page 5. Page 5, section 9, let's take a look at the date function. So we saw the text, we saw the numbers. Selection boxes are pretty easy. Your date is going to make things convenient for you. When you click on the date field, it'll pop up a little calendar. And all you have to do is select that calendar on there, or calendar date on there. Let me go just to the next month, and we'll do the 17th as well. Once you select the date, it'll auto format it when you click out of this box. Month, day, year. All right. So you don't even have to type it in. You just need to select the date and it'll auto format. Every date field will work the same way. Last thing we'll look at here, then we'll get that e-signing set up and take a quick break. Let's go to page 10. Page 10, here we go. All right, so your broker information, you'll need to enter that information as well. All right, I'm just going to add a little bit of detail. Again, we won't fill everything out because we'll come back and do that when we create our template. Thank you, Jennifer. We're just using that for the example. I understand you can't close on a Saturday. This is just for the functions of the tool. We're not telling you how you need to conduct your business or what advice that entails. All right, so just some basic contact information in there. Again, we're going to fill this in when we create our template. That way, all of the information is already there and we don't have to do it every time we add this form using that template. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to that third-party financing. Just scroll down and you can see this one also has our information. All right, and then you can fill out anything else that you need. Everything else on these forms is the same. You're going to have text, you're going to have numbers, you're going to have selection boxes, and you're going to have your date. All right, those are the functions within these forms. Everything in here can be changed, can be altered, can be edited. But once we go to the next part, this is where you can no longer update the contact information or any of the information on these forms. All right, so remember that when we go to the next step here. On the top right-hand side, this is where we're going to prepare signing. So click on prepare signing, that light blue button there. First thing it'll ask you is let's give it a signing name. This is going to be the subject line on the email that is sent to your client. So let's just say Torres initial offer signing. And then click create. And it's going to take us into the AuthentiSign system. All right, so once we get into AuthentiSign, if I scroll down here, I can no longer change any of the information in here. All right, so once your forms are completely filled out and signed, or sorry, completely filled out, then we want to go get them signed through the e-signing process. But remember, if you need to go back and make any changes, you can go back to the forms editor. All right, so nothing is editable in here. That's a good telltale sign that we're in AuthentiSign. Also, on the right, it says signers, top right-hand side, signers. That's another indicator that we are in the e-signing step. All right, so here we have signers. What we need to do is we need to add our signer, so add our participant. So let's click on that green button there. And we're going to select add from transaction. Add from transaction is going to show us anyone we've already added to our transaction. So since Callie Torres is our buyer, she's already on there. I'm just going to click on that little checkbox. It's going to assign a type. You can change this if you need to, but the default will be remote signer. You also have reviewer and you have CC. Reviewer is going to be like if they need just a second set of eyes to approve whatever they need to sign, they can review that first and then give their approval, and that e-signing will be sent to the client or their remote signer. The CC is just a view only option if anyone needs a copy. All right, but keep it on remote signer, click select. Once you click select, you'll see the little preview of their initials, their name, and then if I scroll down on my forms, I'll see every single signature and initial box automatically placed on the form. So I'm just going to scroll down, make sure nothing's been missed. Initials down here. Initials down here. All right, and everything since we used our forms library and we use those smart forms, this is another feature that is built into them, is that we don't have to add any initials, any signature boxes to this. The only time that you'll need to add those is if you're uploading an external document. But if you got it from the form library, everything's already there. I would still recommend double check just in case anything is missed, but for the most part, it should get everything in there. All right, but you can still rearrange these. If it's like slightly off, you can drag and drop these if you need to correct the location of any of those boxes. But everything looks good from here. All I have left to do is to send this out. So next thing I'm going to do, up at the top, click next. Then we can finalize our e-signing. We can set an expiration date, but we will get that e-signing completed today. So no need to set an expiration date. And we can also set a reminder. Your reminder options, it can be every day or up to every 5 days. And you can set it to go out at a specific time of the day. We won't do that today. Let's go ahead and get this sent off. Click send. And it'll take me back to my documents. Because remember, this is where I started. I filled out the forms, then I created that signing. So it just took me back to where I left off. If I want to check the status of that signing, I can go across the top here to e-sign. And I can see my signing there. It has been sent. That blue indicator there, that's the sent color there. At the bottom, I can see the participant, Callie Torres. Nothing has been completed yet. It was just now sent. All right. When we do our second transaction, we will dive a little deeper into the AuthentiSign tools, how to add documents, how to manage the e-signing signature boxes and everything. But let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. So now that we are back, we left off sending our e-signing packet out to our client. Let me go ahead and open up her email inbox. But also take a look at your e-signing page. All right, let's look at a couple other troubleshooting options here, because sometimes maybe you sent it out and then after it was sent out, you realize that email address was spelled incorrectly or it's missing something. We have other options in here. Once it's been sent, you can click on this little blue arrow, turns green when you hover over it. You can resend the invitation. You can reset the invitation. So if you need to reset anything else in the signing, you can actually start over and send it again. You can create a duplicate, or you can go to your signing details to see the history of any changes and who you sent it to. On the signing details, you'll see when it was created, if it was last modified, and when it expires. Then you have 3 sections. Your signers is the first one. If that email address needs to be corrected, click on that little pencil icon, update the email. As soon as you click save, it's automatically going to send it to them again. And if you ever want to double check, you actually have your history where you'll see every single thing that has taken place from the moment that signing was created all the way to when it's finished. You'll have the history in here with timestamps. All right. When those come back to you, we do have the original. So what we sent out that's unsigned, this will also have the signed version and the certificates confirming that it was a valid signature. Now let me close out of this and I'm going to bring up my inbox for my client. So here's my email inbox again. If you sent it to yourself, go to your personal inbox. Here I have the email coming from me. So they're going to see your name on here. But if I hover over the sender, it is coming from Authentisign. So they cannot reply to that email, but the name on that email will have your name on it. Next, it says your signature is requested, and there's the name of the signing that we gave it, Torres Initial Offer Signing. I'm going to open that email. From here, we have our Authentisign branding. We can see the signing invitation. And here is the message inviting them to complete this e-signing. There's that signature I set up. Next, I can click on Start Signing. And this is going to take them into Authentisign. So once we click on Start Signing, you've got your acknowledgement here. So they do have to accept the terms. This is them giving authorization for the electronic signature to be binding. Now, some basic navigation options at the top. If they want to change their zoom settings, if they want to read this better, they can adjust their zoom settings or fit to width if they just want to take up all the space on the page. In the middle here, they're going to see their progress. As we complete this, we'll see the progress updating. This number of items completed, this is only going to be for how many required fields there are for them to complete. So since these ones only have the required initial and signatures, we'll have to complete all 12 items. But if it's something else like a seller's disclosure that has multiple options, it will only show the number of required signatures, not all of the many options within those types of forms. All right. So just for them to keep in mind as they track their progress. If they want to print or download the unsigned form, they can do that from here. But when they complete the signing, and this is a good thing to tell your client, as soon as they complete the signing, Authentisign will send them the signed copy of everything that they just completed. All right. There's nothing you have to do. All they have to do is complete the signing. So let's go ahead and start with this. We're going to click on the start button on the top right-hand side, that blue button there. The start button is going to take us to the first required initial or signature field. So here are those initials. I have to click on this, and then my next step is creating a signature. Now, since this is an electronic signature, they have some options. First one is going to be a style. This is going to have preset fonts that are down here on this drop-down menu. They can pick between any of these, whichever one they feel best represents their signature, and they can use this. They've got the initial preview and they've got the signature preview. That's their first option, probably the easiest one. We will be using this one, but let me show you the other two. There's a draw option. If they want to use their mouse as a pen, they can actually draw their signature on here. So I'm just going to pretend that this is a signature. All right. And then here's the initials. They just use their mouse as a pen. That's all it is. That's option 2. They can also adjust their settings here if they want to change the width. All right. And then we have the upload option. This is a little bit more complicated, but if they want to have their real signature, they can actually use a piece of paper, sign it on that sheet of paper, their entire signature, and then also sign their initials, take an individual photo of each, and they can upload that to their device and then upload it to the signing. All right. Again, it's a lot more steps, but if they want a real signature, it does give them that option. Next, let's go back to the styles. I'm going to stick with this style. I will uncheck this box. But if they don't want to set this up, if they're going to do multiple signings, maybe you have an investor that's buying multiple properties, they can check this box if they never want to create that signature again, if they just want to remember that setting. So I'm going to click Set Signature here, and it's automatically going to complete that first signing. If I want to double check, I can scroll up, and here are the initials down at the bottom of the page and the date. So let me go down to the next signature box. We're just going to click each of these boxes. And that's all it is from this point, just a single click on every single one. Notice how my progress is updating. 6 out of 12 completed. I can keep going. And I'm just doing a single click on here. Same with the signature box. And there's the last one. Once they click on the last signature, they'll get this pop-up. They can either complete the signing and send that to you, or they can click the X on the top right if they want to review, make sure everything is correct. If everything looks good, let's say they reviewed the document, they will click Finish on the top right-hand side. They'll get that pop up again and just hit Complete Signing right there. On this page, they have that confirmation. They can print and download here, but don't forget, they will automatically receive an email with the attachments as PDFs. They can also decide if they'd like to include some feedback for zipForm. This is their product. They created Authentisign, so they are always looking for feedback on those systems. Now I'm going to go back to my inbox. Let's see if we got those documents already. And look at that. Look how quickly that happened. New email, completed signing. There's my IABS. There's my 1 to 4. There's my third party. And this is going straight to your client. Now I'm going to minimize this. Let's go back to zipForm. So let me go back. Let me just go to my transactions page so we can just refresh the session here. I'm going to go into my active transactions on the transaction page. And that offer, that initial offer from today, it's right here. I just need to click on the title of that transaction. Same thing if you're on that gallery view, just click on the transaction itself and it will bring you back into the transaction. Remember, our transaction title is up here on the left. And if I want to check the status of my e-signing, I'm going to click on that e-sign tab. And now we can see it has updated from sent to completed. It has that green little mark on the side to indicate that it has been completed. On the bottom section, we can hover over that one participant. And it is going to have a little green check mark next to the name showing that they completed their signing. If you have multiple signers, you'll see if anyone is pending. If one completed their signing but we're waiting on the other, you know exactly which client to follow up with. Now, where do we see the documents? I did say that you could see them through the little menu option here, through the signing details. But if you want to go to your documents, this is going to create a folder in your documents section with the signed documents in there. So let's go there. Go to documents. On the documents page, here is our initial signing. It creates a folder with the signing name. So there it is, Torres initial offer signing. To go into that folder, I just need to click on it. And it's going to show me the 3 signed documents that I have. Now, before we sent those out, those were forms. They were the smart forms, the fillable forms that can be edited. But now that they've been sent back to us as a PDF, these are now documents. And then I can just click on any of these to see that signing. Let's scroll down to the bottom, make sure initials are there. And signature on the correct location. Everything looks good. All right. Let me see. I have another question in the chat here. Let's see. I tried the reset option because this would have been handy last week. Then I sent it again. I got a new email, but it would not let me sign. We'll need to look at your specific transaction that you're working on. If you want to give the MLS department a call later, we can troubleshoot that with you over the phone. All right, so from here, if we want to take any further action with these signed, with the signed forms here, I can either click on this little checkbox. All right, if I want to select my forms and then send them out, if I want to email those, I can send them out through this option here. I can also print or move them if I need to move them to another folder. But if I want to send them out, I'm going to click on that little send option. It's at the top here, that little envelope with the arrow going up. And then we can email this out. If you have any accounts with these other systems, you can connect your contacts in here. If whoever you're sending the forms, or I'm sorry, these signed documents to is already in the transaction, your transaction contacts are here. But you can exit from this little pop-up window and you can manually enter email addresses on here. Again, we're not sending anything out. This is not a real transaction. We're just looking at the tools. But if you need to send anything out, you can manually email. You can add your CC, you can change your subject line, and then you can add a message. At the bottom, you'll see your attachments on here. You have the option to send these as one single PDF file or separate PDF files. And then your send button is on the top right-hand side. Again, we're not sending anything out, so I'm just going to hit cancel on the top left-hand side. All right. So now that we've seen that, let's take a look at some more advanced features with our transactions, starting off with creating a template. So from here, let me go back to, well, let's just go straight to the templates. We're going to click on templates at the top. It's the top center option. And we're going to select forms and checklists. You can create templates for transactions for your for adding your forms and also for adding any checklists or to-dos that you need to add. We'll be focusing on the forms here. Now, the templates page, it's not going to look super different from the transactions page. So make sure you know which page that you're looking at. We will do the template by clicking the new option. So just like a transaction, it's going to be very similar. But look at that there, it will tell you it's a template. So you have the same initial options here. The only thing we don't have there is that quick e-sign because again, this is just a template. But we will be doing another new purchaser offer template. This time we're giving the name to the template. So let me put today's date on there, 4/17. And we're going to say this is our initial offer. All right, 4/17 initial offer. That's the name of our template. Next, what's the category? We'll select residential on this. And this part is very important, the auto apply settings. Your first option is do not automatically apply this to new transactions. Your second option is to automatically apply this template to any purchase/residential new transactions. And the third one, careful with this one, it says automatically apply this template to all new transactions. So if you don't exclusively do the purchase residential transactions and you have other transactions you handle here as well, make sure you don't have that one selected because it's going to apply this template to every single transaction you create. I prefer to manually select it. So I'm going to click on do not automatically apply it. And then if I want to use a template, I will tell the system that I'm using a template. All right. Down at the bottom, let's click Save. Now we're going to actually set up the template. So this is just creating it. Now we're going to add the information to the inside here. Now, again, this looks just like a transaction. Here's the name of our template where we would normally see the name of a transaction. All right. There's no transaction ID. There's no retention period. It just says purchase residential. You can add parties. If you want to add parties to your transaction, maybe this is a template you made exclusively for specific clients you work with. You have your documents here. This is the main thing we're here to look at though. So we're going to add documents. I'm going to click on all forms. And I'm just going to leave the Texas Realtors folder up here. We're going to look for that IABS. All right. And I'm just going to make sure I have the buyer tenant form, single click to add it in. Same thing, let's do that 1 to 4. Single click. And if there's anything else you may or may not add, you can add anything to the transaction template. If you want to add that third-party financing, even if you might not use it every single time, it's nice to already have it there. If there's any addendums that you need to add in, you can add those in as well, just in case. It's already there. If you don't need it, then you don't need to add it to the signing. You don't need to fill the forms out. But if you do happen to need it later, it's already been added to the transaction. So all you need to do is fill it in and send it out for signing. So it's really up to you how much you want to add to that transaction. All right. We just stick to these 3 examples for the purpose of our class, but you're not limited to this as your only option. Now from here, the real value is from what we get to fill in advance. And that's our information because my information is not going to change. My client, The property, the price, the dates, those will change depending on the transaction. But I can go ahead and pre-fill my information on that IABS. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. This time I will add everything on there, so we will be quiet for just a few minutes. I'll try to do this quickly so we don't spend too much time on it. Now, if you've used these forms before, you might have noticed that my browser is giving me the suggestions that I filled in previously, so that does save me some time. But if you've never done it before, you might not get that option. And as a reminder, someone did ask earlier if the templates will update the forms, if those forms change, and they will not. So if this form changes, you will need to come back, add the new form, and pre-fill it again. But now you know where to find it so that you can add your information more easily. And you could either delete the old template or you could just replace the form on the existing template. Okay, it's hard to fill in numbers when you're talking at the same time, but we got through it. All right, so I added my information in here. Now there was some brokerage information on the 1 to 4, so we could also add that in too. So remember, if I am in my forms editor, where I can add text to these forms, I can go down from the workspace into the transaction down here below, and I can add that 1 to 4, and I can fill in my brokerage information on there as well. All right, remember, just click on the plus sign to get it added in. It'll be in the workspace. You can scroll down or you can just click on the name of the form and it'll take you there. All right, let me go down. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been page 10. Let's see, let's go to page 10. Page 10, there we go. So I can add my brokerage information here as well if I want to. All right, I'm not going to, let's just add a little bit. I don't want to take too much time on this. But if anyone is following along, go ahead and add your information on here as well. All right, that's as far as I'll go. Okay. Now, this again looks just like our transaction, but here's one indicator that you're not in a transaction. You cannot prepare a signing from here. All right, and we wouldn't want to do that because nothing else is filled in on these forms anyway. So let's go ahead and save those changes. Click Save up at the top right-hand side. All right, if you didn't get to finish filling in your information, you can come back to it. It will have what you had when we left off, and you can come back and add it in later. Same location. Let's go to let's go actually back to the list here. I'm going to click that button there on the top left. All right, here are our transactions. Now from here, let me show you really quickly because I did see someone ask earlier, how do you delete a template? Click on your templates and your forms and checklists. All right, if you want to delete anything, you can select your template, just that checkbox on the top left, and you'll get a little blue trash can icon where you can delete. All right, just keep in mind, if you delete something, we cannot get it back. You also have a little blue arrow here. Both give you the same options. This blue arrow has a delete option there. All right, either way, you can delete it, but just remember, we cannot get it back once it's deleted. Now let's go to our transactions. We're going to start our next transaction. This time we're going to look at the more advanced features within the transactions we can create. The one we did previously was your basic, easy, best case scenario situation. Now we're going to go a little deeper. Let's add a new transaction. Click on that plus sign, top left-hand side. This will still be a new purchase or offer. All right, and then from here, we're still going to give it a name, but we're not going to add the property address. We're actually going to use an MLS number to import listing data this time. So first thing, let's add a name. We had one buyer on the first transaction. We're actually going to have 2 buyers this time. So we're going to say this is Torres Robbins initial offer, and that's for today's date, 4/17. Okay, now if I want to import MLS listing data, I can do that in 2 different locations. I'll show you the first one here. It is MLS Connect. It's on the top right-hand side, right next to property address, just on the right. That blue hyperlink will bring you to this little pop-up window. If you're a member of multiple MLSs, you might have other options on this drop down, but Netris should be the one you're selecting here. Again, if you're following along, use the same example that I'm giving so you get the same results. Next, step 2, enter that MLS listing ID. That's going to be this box in the middle. The MLS number is 20708 750. 207 08750. So enter your MLS number, then click on that little checkbox that says include property photo. It's optional, but it's nice to have the little image just to make sure we got the right one. Now, an important thing to keep in mind with this option, it has to be an active listing, all right? It cannot be coming soon. It has to be active for that feature to work. All right, so we have the MLS listing ID. We check this box here. Let's click that green button that says find, see if it can locate the property. There we go. Here is the property information. There's my photo. All I have to do from here is click on use listing, and it's going to add it to the transaction. It does not add it in the address field. It's just going to add it right up here at the top. So that is my address. Next step, what's the category? Residential. We'll leave the status on active, but this time, instead of going to the next step, we will select our template. So click on the templates on the drop-down menu there, and our template for today, 417 initial offer, is right here. So I'm going to click on this, and this is going to tell the system to import the forms that were pre-filled into the transaction. Next thing, click Save down at the bottom. Okay, so now we're in our transaction. We can see that transaction ID, the name of the transaction. In my summary page, if I scroll down here, I will see the MLS number and all the details about the property that came in from the listing itself. Let me go down to the listing summary. We've got our listing date, we've got our listing price, all right? So this came in from the listing itself. So I don't need to add anything in here. I can go straight to my parties because I do have my 2 buyers on here. Let's take a look at those parties and look at this. We have our seller, we have our listing agent, our selling agent, even the escrow officers on here. This came from the listing in MLS. Now, the seller says of record, so we will need to update that information. If I want to edit an existing contact, I can either click on it from here, or I can click on it from that list on the left, and it will let me edit this information. So let's say I contacted the listing agent, and we're working with Sally Seller again. All right, save those changes down at the bottom. And we updated our seller. All right. Again, don't worry about this affecting the listing. This is not going anywhere beyond the practice that we're doing in this class. And I'll show you, someone please remind me how, if I happen to forget at the end of the class, how to delete that transaction so it's not interfering with anything. All right, so we need to add our buyers. We have 2 buyers today. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on buyer 1. We'll add Callie Torres first. And both of my buyers, they're gonna have the same email address. And I'll show you how we can update the settings of the signing so that they don't have to worry about accidentally signing the wrong e-signing template or e-signing packet. All right, I have my buyer 1, Callie Torres, with that email address. Let me save those changes. And I'm going to add my buyer 2 just on the next line on the left. This one is going to be Arizona Robbins. All right, and I'm just going to add that email address. Yes, if you're wondering, these are the characters from Grey's Anatomy. Other instructors, they'll use their children's names or their pets' names. I have neither, so we're just going to use Grey's Anatomy. They have plenty of characters. All right, so we've got both of these on here. Again, you can filter. Now that we have more people on here, these filters are more useful. We have our buy side, we have our sell side, we even have a service provider. So you can see those filters there. Now that we've got our two buyers, let's go to our documents. Fingers crossed that all the forms we added are already there. Go to documents, there they are. Let's go into that IABS. Did it carry over what I pre-filled in that template? Click on that IABS. Let's scroll down. Imaginary drum roll, and there is my information. Again, I don't have to fill anything else in from here. All right, let's add our other forms. How do we add our forms? We're in the workspace. We go down to the transaction, click on those plus signs. All right, and again, we can either scroll down or click on the name of the form from within the workspace. Click on that 1 to 4. And here we have our seller, our two buyers, both of them were added. We've got the information from the property. All right, remember sales price, we'll need to enter that one in. Let's just do those same numbers just to keep things easy. 1 million and 2 million. And we'll check that third-party financing addendum. Let's keep on looking here. Oh, you know what? I just noticed an error because we don't have the address of the property on here. Address of the property, it's not on there. All right, give me 1 second here. I need to write that down so we can take a look at that with zipForm support. Not on any of these pages. And it's also not letting us add it in. That's definitely a bug. All right, 1 second, guys. We multitask here. We do also identify and report things to zipForm as well, because we need to make sure our systems are working properly. Not carrying over. Let me know in the chat if you guys have the address of the property on these pages, because that's what we're looking at, the address of the property at the very top. It should automatically have those filled in. I only see it on page 1. So not sure if it's my zipForm account or if it is an actual bug, but I'll report it to them either way just in case. All right, looks like some of you have the address on yours. All right, let's keep on going here. So we don't need to fill in any other information. Let's go check out that page 10 on that 1 to 4, because we did pre-fill that during our template creation. So let's go to page 10 of the 1 to 4. There we go. So the information we pre-filled did carry over here. It also brought in the information for the listing agent from the listing when we imported the information. All right. And last thing, let's just take a quick look at that third party. Yeah, did not carry over the address for my listing. All right, definitely going to report that one at least so they can take a look at it. All right, so let's move on from here. We don't need to fill in all the information. Again, this is just to get familiar with the navigation and the tools within them. We have our buyers already added, our seller already added. Let's go to our signing. So go to prepare signing on the top right-hand side. And this time it does work because we are in the transaction. We'll give it a signing name. This is going to be another 4.17 initial signing. And then click create. All right, so now this is where we're going to get into the more advanced tools within the AuthentiSign system. So from here, we have 2 signers. Let's go to the signers section and add our participants. From here, we want to add from transactions, but let's look at some other options here. If you have not added your contacts yet, you can add them in here. For example, if you just did that quick e-sign option at the beginning instead of the transaction, you can add a new contact. If it's someone you've worked with in the past, but you didn't add them to the transaction, you can add them from your contacts as well if you save them. But we're just going to add from transaction. And again, we have our buyer 1 and buyer 2, Cali and Arizona. We're not going to change the type. Both of them are remote signers. Next, let's click select down at the bottom. We don't need to add anyone else. Once you add your 2 signers, you'll see here their initial boxes will give you that preview, and they will have their own designated color. So you'll be able to keep things organized there. Now, since they have the same email inbox, we have a little issue we may run into is that they are going to receive that e-signing packet at the exact same time in the same email inbox. So they'll need to pay close attention to make sure that they're completing the correct signing. But there's a way that we can make it a little bit easier. Also, if you have multiple signers, if it's more than 2, this is going to help to keep things organized. So on the signers section at the top, you might not have seen this before. It says set signing order. If I turn this on, I just need to click on that little switch there to turn it on. It's going to set a signing order. So Arizona's been assigned number 1, Callie's been assigned number 2. Now, since I have her set to buyer 1, I would prefer to switch these around. If I want to switch these, I can just hover over those 6 little boxes on the left. See how I have that 4-pointed arrow? Just like our widgets in Matrix, I can click and I can drag and drop to set a different signing order. All right, so I want buyer 1 to be signer number 1, and I want buyer 2 to be signer number 2. Now, what is the signing order? This is telling Authentisign, I'm going to send the signing out, but I don't want everyone to receive it at the same time. Buyer 1 will receive the signing invitation first. So it's going to come to that inbox assigned to Callie Torres first. Then from there, she will complete her entire signing packet. Once she completes the signing, then the email invitation will be sent to buyer number 2, only when buyer 1 has completed their signing. All right, so it just helps to keep things organized, and I can set those expectations with my client and let them know. Callie will be the first one to receive the invitation. Arizona, you won't receive any invitations until Callie has completed her signing. So keep an eye out for those emails. Once they're both completed, then they'll receive those completed documents with the attachments. All right, so we have our signing order. Everything is already set here. All right, let me actually move this one over. Looks like the alignment is a little bit off. So again, I can still drag and drop this. All right, it was just on that seller landlord section. So we just moved it over to buyer tenant so both of them can be there. All right, and then I can scroll down, look at all these other ones. That's the correct location. And just double check, make sure everything is assigned in the correct place. Everything looks good so far. We're just looking at the placement of those initial boxes. We should have a signature line coming up soon, and we'll see the same for that one as well. All right, Callie is on Callie, Arizona on Arizona, and that date is also there. Now that very last one, both in the correct place, and both signatures are in the correct place. Now let's say I actually have a PDF document that they had already signed previously, or maybe they need to sign it, but it's not in the forms library. If we want to add an external document to this e-signing, I can upload something from my device by going to Docs. That's right after Signers. Going to Docs. I can see my existing forms on here. I can rearrange the forms just like I rearranged my signing order, but I can also add more documents or more forms. So if I forgot anything, or if I have something on my device I need to upload, I can click Add Document or Form. It's going to show me anything in my transaction. If I need to add it, it'll have a little add button instead of these little check marks. But if I want to upload something, that's my second option here. I can either drag and drop, or I can click to upload. So let me try the drag and drop option here. Just want to see if it will let me do that. Let's try the drag and drop feature. If not, we'll just click on it. All right, let me see. I'm going to move this over, make that a little smaller. We're just going to do a blank document here. If you don't have one, don't worry about this part. You can just follow along observing on the screen here. So I'm going to add my blank document, drag and drop. And here it is. It automatically uploads it. All I need to do is scroll down. There's my blank document. Now the blank document on here. Oh, that's a great call out. Let me share that, Jennifer. An example of a document to upload would be the seller's signed addendum for lead-based paint. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so we have our document. Now, the document, if you upload it, it's not going to have the, let's imagine that it has signature lines on it. It's not automatically going to place those signature lines like it does here. All right, only the forms that are part of the forms library will have that function. So I need to manually add the signature boxes or initial boxes or anything else I need to do. So that's what we're going to look at next. We're going to look at the other tools. So we uploaded our document. Let's look at the tools. How do I add the signature boxes on a PDF? So I've got my tools here. On this page, these are all of the actions for your signer. So if they need to add a signature, add initials, if they need to add text, these are all actions that the signer will take in Authentisign. All right, it's not going to let us fill information in if we use these boxes. Notice how everything here is yellow. Everything is assigned to Arizona. These are only for Arizona's signatures and actions. So if I want to add a signature, I can drag and drop by clicking sign here. I'm just going to do a left click with my mouse and I'm going to hold it down. I'm not going to release it. Left click, hold it down, drag it over to the page. Let's say the signature needs to go somewhere down here. Once I release my mouse, then it's going to place it with the date. So it does have it as required with the date. Let me scroll down if I can maybe zoom in a little more. There we go. All right, so we have our first signature on there. If I need to add any other details, let's say we want to add their name in text, I can click on this signature box. Single click, release your mouse, and then it gives me additional options. If I want to make this bigger or smaller, I can change the scale of the box. I can add a name block by switching this on. It just adds their full name in regular text. I can even add a timestamp if I want to take it that step further. So the date and the hour and minute. All right, so those are the options I have there. I'm going to go ahead and leave that. If I want to get out of these settings, I can just click anywhere else and it'll take me back to the tools, the regular signing tools. You can also manually add a name, an email address, or the date and time. If you just want to add those individually, you can do that as well. Down at the bottom here, the markup options, this is for you. This is for you to use. If you need to add text to one of these, let's say maybe you have a form that maybe there's just a small piece of text that's missing and you need to add it really quickly, you can click on text box, just a single click. It'll get that little blue outline to show that it's active and then click wherever you need to add text. I'm just going to go up here and it's going to add a text box. I can change my font size, my font color. Maybe we'll change this to blue so we can see that better. The font size, the actual font, you can bold, italic, whatever you need to do. And then from here, click on that text box to actually add the text. So I'm just going to say example text goes here. We'll just keep it simple. I can also change the width if I need to. So if you do need any last minute corrections, you do have that option. Then again, click anywhere else to get out of that box there. And let's add a signature box for our other signer. So how do I get to my other signer? At the top where it has her name, this is a drop-down menu. It gives me the other signers here. I can easily go into Callie Torres. Everything changes to the corresponding color. And then same thing, I can click and drag to bring this over, or I can just do a single click. And it's just going to place it in the middle of the page, and then I can move it to wherever it needs to go. So I'm just going to click and drag from this point, move it over. And that month, day, year, keep an eye on that one. It does not move with the signature box. They're all individual boxes. Let's look at the signer fields this time. If I want to add the full name, single click, there's that full name, just like with the name block. Same idea, just a different way to get there. All right, and the timestamp, I can add that too, just a single click on that box and drag it over. Okay, multiple options to do the same thing, just a matter of what you prefer. Now from here, let's get this sent out for signatures. Actually, let me point out one more thing. If you have a document that you use frequently, that you'll be uploading, you don't have to do this process every single time. You can create your own layout. What the layout is, that's what these forms have up here, where they automatically know where to place the signature boxes. You can create your own custom layout with your documents that you upload. So if you're going to use something frequently, you can add your own layout. You can set it up one time and then you can apply, create, or manage your layouts here. So if you want to turn this into a new layout, you can hit create, give it a custom name, and then you can refer back to it later if you need to add it to any future transactions, and then it'll recognize it just like it does with those other forms. All right, so a couple extra steps, but again, just like our templates, you just have to do it that one time, and then when you come back, it'll already know what to do. All right, that's your layouts. Your options, this is going to pop up automatically when we click next. Your options are going to be the expiration and reminders. Again, if we want to do an expiration date or set daily reminders, we can do that. There's one other thing we can do here that we didn't look at before, and that is we can actually customize the email invitation that is sent out to them. So let me click on customize invites. We'll just take a quick look at this here. So we have an individual email going to Callie Torres. We can add a custom message here. Oh, wow. Can she spell? Custom message here. All right. And then this is where I can explain, Callie, you're going to receive the invitation first. Only when you've completed your signing will Arizona receive the invitation. And then I can add my custom message to Arizona as well. And whatever instructions I need to give her, give me a call when you finish. Let me know if you have any questions. Whatever I need to do to add that extra personal touch, I can do that here. From there, let me save those changes. And then we're going to go ahead and get that sent out. All right, so let me go pull up my client's inbox. Here we go. And I just need to refresh my page. There is the new signing. So again, comes from us, new signature 417 initial signing. I just need to open that up here. And remember, this is only going to signer number 1 because of that signing order we set up. So here is our signing invitation. Here's the name and here's the custom message. All right, from here, let's click on that Start Signing button. Each signer will need to accept the terms of use. And then we can start the signing from here. So let's go ahead and click on that first one. We're going to set up the initial box here. I'm not going to go through all these steps again. We know the deal here. They can choose a font, they can draw, or they can upload their handwritten signature. But I'm going to go with this one, set signature, and we're going to go through this pretty quickly because I want to show you how signer number 2 will receive their invitation. And I hopefully, if there's time, we are getting close to the end. I want to show you what happens if they reject the signing. So let me go through that first one. Click on every single signature box. If they skip anything, it will not let them complete the signing until they complete the other items there. Here's the custom page we created. There's my text and the signature box. And now we're almost done. I'm going to go ahead and complete this signing so we can see how much time it takes for signer number 2 to receive the invitation. So I've completed the signing. I can close out of Authentisign, just the tab, and go back to my email inbox. And how long do I have to wait? It's instant. It's instant. If they don't receive it instantly, then we need to follow up with zipForm and see what's going on with that. But it should be instant. Let's click on that invitation. Here we'll see a slight difference in the information. The text actually does change color for signer number 2. So another little identifier there so we know which one it is. And of course, their name is up at the top and their custom message is there. Now let's click on Start Signing. Once again, this is a different signer, so they need to accept those terms. And then go down to the first signature box. And notice how signer number 2, they can see the completed signatures for the other signer that already completed it down at the bottom there. So I'm going to click on that first initial box. We'll just set that first signature style. And let's say we're going through this here, everything's looking good. But then something happened and she noticed that there is something wrong with this signing. They can reject the signing. Can't really miss that button there, bright red, that X that says reject. When they click on this option, what's going to happen is they're going to have to, excuse me, sorry. They're going to have to select a reason for the rejection. They have some predetermined options, but they can also write it in if the purchase price is incorrect, if the closing date is incorrect, if the deposit amount is incorrect, the listing conditions or listed conditions, their name or the address. Those are the predetermined reasons. If they select this other option, they will have to explain why that is. So we can just say reason ABC 1, 2, 3. All right, just for the example. They can explain their reason here and they can get that rejected. They have to click that confirm button. What this is going to do is it's going to send you an email letting you know they rejected the document. All right. Let's say they rejected it, but then they realized that they made a mistake and they didn't mean to reject it. It's going to end the signing immediately, but let me go down back to zipForm. Let's check the status of our e-signing. Back on zipForm, click on e-sign. Might need to, there we go. So now we can see there's a new color here. They rejected it. It has that orange color instead. And then now if I hover over the participants, it will show me Cali completed the signing, Arizona rejected it. So now I could pick up the phone, contact Arizona, what's going on? Is everything okay? What did we miss? And then I can come back over here to my more options and I can reset this. All right, we will start over with the e-signing. So make sure that it is a genuine mistake. Well, let's go back in there, click on yes. All right, and it's just going to take us back to the signing. Now, if I scroll down here, everything is just the way we left it. If I go to my documents, let me just go to that very last one there. Excuse me, let me go to the last document here. I'm just going to scroll all the way to the bottom. Everything is as it was. Even with our new document, all the text we added in here. So if there's anything wrong with this, with the emails, with the names, with anything like that, we can come in, we can make our changes. Keep in mind, if it's something actually on the form, like let's say Arizona Robbins on the form itself was spelled incorrectly, then we need to go back into the form and create a new signing. All right. But we can get this resent right away if it was just a mistake. So resetting it is going to allow you to create a new version where you can send it again. Another workaround here, if you have an e-signing, let me go back to e-signing. It always takes us back to documents. Let's say we sent this out, but I forgot to include a document. I left off one of the forms. It's not going to allow me to delete if I select this checkbox. Notice how I get this pop-up. Only a draft can be deleted. But if I use that reset option again, let me go to reset, back to the Authentisign system. All right, let's say I'm not going to send this out. I'm just going to save this as a draft and go back. I know I'm moving pretty quickly. We only have about 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure to get this in here. I can save this as a draft, go back to my e-signing, back to e-signing. Now it's a draft. Now I can delete the signing. All right. So it's a little override function. Now I can click on this checkbox and I can delete that signing right there. And it's deleted. Again, if you delete anything, we cannot get it back. So be very careful when you're deleting things. Make sure you're deleting the right item. Now let's use these last couple of minutes. Let me go back to our transactions page. How do we delete the transaction? Go to the transactions page. All right, I'm going to use an older transaction here. I'm going to go to this one, but if you want to delete today's transaction, you can do this. Click on the checkbox and your delete option is up here. All right, so I'm sure you're not making offers on the 2 properties that we created transactions for. You can delete those transactions. It'll ask if you're sure, because remember, we can't get it back if it's deleted, but just click yes, and it'll delete it from your transactions page. And then again, those templates, go to the templates, same thing, click on the little checkbox and your delete option is up here. All right. We have made it to the end of our class.